take what society deems a curse and turn it into a beautiful and glorious blessing to oneself. A personal example for me being coming to terms with my own sexuality. Don't get me wrong, I'm gay, but that doesn't mean I hate girls. But at the same time, breeding? I don't have the slightest clue what happens down there, and I've seen the vagina monologues, and nor do I care to find out. But since none of you are here to hear my speculation on sub-equatorial geography, I think it's necessary and proper that I give a brief synopsis of my timeline of coming out, to myself, to my family, and ultimately to the world. Or at least my world. As implied before, I identify myself as just about as gay as they get. A Kinsey 37 gay, which is described as, and this is a little known fact, a sack full of glitter-lined kittens. Or boys. And I've always kind of wished I were a lesbian, which is odd because people are always like, Aaron, you have such a kickin' body. The reason is because they get immunity in the Bible, right? Back in biblical times, they released the book of Leviticus. There's a big show. They lined out at Barnes and Noble. They lined outside of it. God was there signing books. God on the back. Best-selling author of Genesis and Exodus. Lives in heaven with his son and his ghost. And they have the reading of Leviticus, right? Thou shalt not put mayonnaise on your submarine if it is of 5 cubits by 17. What's a cubit? I don't know. And then they're going down the do not put animals in shredders as long as they have tongues. And then they got to, thou shalt not be a man and lie with another man. That is all. Go home, everybody, in the lesbian. Sexual feelings. I told myself I was straight essentially all the way through my senior year of high school. Yeah, so maybe I was absolutely infatuated with boys. So in my 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, the list goes on. But I just always wrote these feelings off as weird buddy-buddy relationships, or just, the way that it happens. Because I was an upstanding young man. I went to church in my Sunday best, and I got good grades in school, and I didn't look at pictures of sexy women on the internet. Because I looked at pictures of sexy men on the internet. And I only had so much time. In the 10th grade, my mom found out about my curiosity, and it was met with her utmost fury, or her loving concern, as she put it. I was swiftly sent to counseling in order to reform my ways and ne'er return, and not in a fun TLC reality show sort of way. Don't say that again. They didn't get that I was making a reference to, one of those house shows. They're laughing now, so I guess. Yet despite my constant denial and intense desire to reverse the unfortunate role I had been dealt in this life, I made a point to leave out the fact that my browsing habits were of a homosexual nature. Whether it was out of a sense of embarrassment or a sense of pride, I found it to be a significant initial step in coming out to myself. I didn't learn a thing from counseling. I learned what a synapse was. But that was the easy part. I still had the world to come out to, and I had no idea how they would react. Fast forward to a warm and humid night in late September of last year. I'm sitting in Fatburger with my parents, gripping the edges of my seat, running through scenarios of the best possible way to break the news to my ultra-masculine father and re-break the news to my ultra-conservative mother, who had both visited for the night, that I was in a relationship of over a year with another guy. So, Mom, they say you crave what your mother ate when she was pregnant with you. So what the hell were you eating
Explains a lot. Yeah, explains a lot. Explains a lot.
It's in the textbook. Remember my friend Andrew? Yep, definitely more than a friend. Yeah, like one of those wait until the family's left the house type of friends. Why didn't I tell you earlier? Because then we wouldn't have the house to ourselves, huh? Running out of ideas, I just started shaking uncontrollably and crying right there in the middle of Fatburger with the football game blaring on the TV next to our table. I had somebody tell me I picked the second straightest place in College Station to have a gay breakdown. My dad noticed me and was suddenly on the alert, having no earthly idea why his son was in this state all of a sudden. I removed my wet pants from my snotty, contorted face and croaked through just trouble out there. Which is all I can manage without using the word gay, which would have likely sparked the biggest College Station manhunt of the year. My parents rushed me out to the car to drive me back to my dorm, which was certainly the most silent and awkward trip I ever had to endure. Before we left the parking lot, my mom turned around in her seat and demanded to know what was wrong. I turned my head to the window, cleared my throat, and said, "Mom, Dad, I was in a relationship with another guy. I'm sorry if this disappoints you, but that's just the way it is, and that's just who I am." A huge wave of finality flooded my mom's car as the words still hung in the air. My dad, who had always been such a manly leader in our household, expressed how proud he was of me for having the bravery to tell them. How the tables had turned. My mom, however, stared at the ground near my feet for a few seconds before turning around and silently and rigidly watching the night road ahead. Fast forward again to last November, even though fast forward is kind of antiquated because nobody watches VHSs anymore. The day I came out to the world, or Facebook at least, which is about as big as my world gets until I'm more active on my Twitter feed. So what I have to do. My boyfriend Andrew and I, who had been together for about a year and a half by that point, had talked about it, and we were both ready to make it Facebook official. For a few uncertain hours, however, my relationship status just read Aaron Smith is in a relationship. I posted that, went to the restroom, and came back, and 4,573 people liked this. Congrats, Aaron. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Who's the lucky girl? Aha. I had a few tricks up my sleeve. When it was eventually revealed to all the Facebook that I was in a relationship with Andrew Colarusso, male Andrew Colarusso, gay male Andrew Colarusso, I received some additional comments and likes. But I noticed one of my comments from before had been erased. My bitch of an ex-piano teacher, God bless her, was the culprit. To make things worse, her status was, and I quote, "Can someone tell me how to remove a friend?" Just you wait. I have to deal with the homosexual issue, smiley face. End quote. Since she was as old as dirt, and all her friends were too, I was the first to comment. This was going to be good. I told her how to remove me as a friend, and followed up by expressing my condolences that this part of me was something that she couldn't accept, and that she couldn't move on with. Facebook drama at its finest. It was this landmark event, though small, that marked complete coming to maturity in who I was, and who I was made to be, and who I had been blessed to be. I was seeing everything through different lenses. From the uncertainty regarding my feelings growing up, to the paper I wrote in high school condemning gays and gay marriage, even in the knowledge of who I knew I was, all the way to the one night I nearly drove my truck into a ditch, just wanting to put to death that within me, which I found ugly, repulsive, evil, damning. Everything had inverted. The tables had turned. Rather than being ashamed of the lot I had been dealt in this life, I found myself to love and find beauty in who I was, even in the face of those who pulled as hard as they could to straighten me out. My mom told me shortly after I came out that what I had become was contrary to what she wanted for me. But I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that this is who I was meant to be and who I'd become proud to be, even in the face of such opposition from many sides. Thank you.